All right, so yesterday we completed up to, I think we completed this one. Did we complete this one? Multiple string methods. It is just piling one top of another. It is stripping. Yeah, we did this stripping, and then we can keep adding it. It's like a piping, right? We can keep adding this. So this is whatever this is going to be the input for this method, and this is like you can keep adding it. Let's take title. So this whatever the output that this yields out, this gives us. So this is going to act as input for this one. So we can keep on adding these methods. That's one good thing about Python. We can add, usually like we call this as piping in Linux terminology, or I don't know about Java and other languages, but we call this as piping. So we can keep on adding these methods. Otherwise, called as chaining.
Strip is nothing but to decrease, I mean, to remove that spaces, that's it, right?
Trial spaces. So if it has anything at the start or at the end, it's going to remove. If it has anything in between, it's not going to remove it. It's not going to consider only the trial spaces. Trial space always comes at the start or the end. So the next one is manipulating column names. Right now, whatever we have seen is more of customizing, manipulating a row-related data. We have seen how to change columns, but to an extent that we can even apply whatever the methods that we use on a row level data to columns too. So we'll see example. Here we have movie country and movie income. Put port D is missing. All right. So we have sorry, we should not exclude this one. Here we have movies. Let's go income. Make this as yeah, it's better. Movies income, and we have movies country. So we'll change these columns instead of movie underscore name or revenue. So I'll make this as movie name with space, and revenue right now is this. I want to make it as revenue. Right? Same case, same thing for movie name and country also. Country, I want to make it as so for movies, what is the data set name? Movies underscore income, right? So how do we get the columns? Movie, the data frame dot columns. That will list out all the columns. Now we can focus on this. Let's take that in this case, I want to replace this underscore with space. Let's do one thing. So for these sort of operations, always convert into lower, because there is a case that you may have uppercase too that may not match. So convert into lower and then replace. I want to replace underscore with space. Right? I can see it's not blank. It's actually space. Again, space is also character in Python. Execute this. You can see that instead of underscore, we got space. Now we can convert this into, how do we convert this into caps? I
Upper.
need upper. If it is small case, lower. If it is title, that is first letter, if it has to be caps and the remaining letter is going to be small, and then it should be title. So if you go this, we got this one. So we can assign this back to movie underscore name columns. If you look income now, this much more clean. Same case for this one too. So there's nothing much difference apart from movies, country, isn't it? So country, and you can see the same thing, right? It is column level data manipulation. So any questions? It's not
No, sir.
really a complex concept, simple one.
So we just renamed the column names. I mean, caps
Yeah,
change.
yeah. Usually we apply these sort of methods on the row level data, but we can even apply on columns and customize that. That's the whole point. Clear?
Yeah.
The next one, let's see. I have a data frame here. Let me delete this. All right, so here we have a data frame wherein we have 5 columns. Here, movie name, val1, val2, and val3, right? So I think Piyush just joined. So request you to join on time, Piyush. We waited for 5 minutes. All right,
Yes.
so we,
Yeah, sorry, sir. Actually, I just late for 2 3 minutes. I
all right,
joined now.
I can understand, but you will miss something or other, right? That's anyway.
Okay.
What's the recording?
Sure,
Here we
sir.
have here we have 5 columns. Year, movie name, val1, val2, val3. But what I need is, again, it's a column level operation. So what I need is, we need only columns that have that starts with val, right? So as I told you before, that df dot columns will give the list of course, the data frame is df. That's the reason I given df. If it is some other name, you need to give the appropriate name. So df dot columns will give us the list of columns. And if you want, anyway, we know starts with, right? So what we need is all the columns in the data frame that starts with val. So it's just starts with val. If we go for this, obviously it's going to give true wherever it has val, that starts with val. So this is more of boolean, isn't it? So we can say this boolean. You've got columns now. So condition, if you pass condition, you're going to get those columns, isn't it? Or else you can, I think, I'm not sure. So it's not accepting. So this calls, I can store it as calls. I can pass to calls. Now you can see that we got only those columns that have the starts with val. Of course, we can use df log all the rows. If you need a set of columns, we can use this one. There's nothing wrong in it, but this is more manual, isn't it? We can do that. It's not that you have to go only with this one. But the advantage of this one is when you have, let's take that you have 1,000 columns, out of which there are 50 columns which starts with val or something else. Then it's going to be very difficult, right, to manually give a list like this. Those 50 columns can be anywhere in between. So if picking 50 columns out of 1,000 columns is not easy. But if you have apply a method like this, it's going to be quite easy to sort out that one. So usually we have seen how to filter the rows, but we haven't seen how to filter the columns. This is one case where we can even filter the columns based on its name. We can even filter based on data types, but that is the next one. So any questions on this? Am I recording? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes.
The next one is another very interesting one. We're going to filter, we can even filter based on data types. So while executing the script, so what you need to do is you need to copy up to here. This is one whole data frame. Okay. So look at this data frame. You can see there are a lot of columns. Let me explain you what these. Usually, how do we get data types of each column? What is the property that we need to use? Df dot
Type of.
type of
Type.
is, yeah, no, not type, d types. Pandas we have d types. So it's going to give column and the respective data type. Here I have intentionally created the column names in a way that matches with the data type. But these are not the data types. Okay, these are column names. I have intentionally given it in a way that it almost matches with the data type. Of course, I have given string because if it is a column, it is string of a column with bunch of strings we call it object, but I had given it as string. The remaining I think is almost the same. Int64 uint I have given as uint. You can see that float64. This is the column name and this is the data type. Float64. Bool1, bool2 is boolean, right? We have more than two. That's the reason I have given bool1, bool2. Dates and so on and so forth. I hope you got the point. So I intentionally created a data frame in a way that it almost matches with the data type. The column name will match with the data type. Any questions on this?
No.
The next interesting part starts from here. So we have a method called select d types, wherein we can include. Let's take this. If I mention include in 64, maybe like okay, let's go with in 64 first. It is going to pick only those columns that is of in64 type. What is the column that is of in64 type? We have only one column that is of in64 type. If I give int, I think it's still right. If I give numerical, I don't know, it's number or number. Yeah, you can see number, which is numerical type. It is going to give all the columns that are numerical in nature. Right, so you can see that if you can easily update describe now. The describe for object and describe for this one is totally different. If I use this one, let's take exclude. I have exclude. Exclude is going to exclude data and then whatever the data that we mentioned. If it is in 64, it is going to exclude that particular thing. Whereas if I want to exclude all the numbers, it's going to see that right. Then it's going to give a different sort of thing. Here you can see still don't see the part. Let me, because we have few things. You can see that describe is totally different. Right? So we get the point. So we can include a particular data type or list of data types. In fact, if you look at this, instead of number, if it is more than one data type that you want to mention, then you can give it something like this. Let's take I want even float, and I want u int 64. Let me remove this type. What is missing here? U int 60. Oh, it's not u int 64. It's u int 64. Sorry.
UN India.
Yeah, spelling mistake. U int 64. Now you can see that we got only that particular thing, right? Or maybe number, and I want to exclude t deltas, which is not really right. Exclude. So t deltas, what is the data type of t deltas? It's time delta 64, right? So I'm going to add this one. Now it's better. Well, you can see the t delta is actually time delta, time difference. So that should not be part of numerical. Now this is much better, right? I hope we
So
got
can't
the.
we use describe for this one now?
Of course, you can use it. It's more informative than the t. And t deltas, you should not apply t deltas. This particular thing. It should not. It's not part of numerical, right? T delta is totally different. So this is much better approach. All right. Any questions on this one? So include and exclude. You can exclude if you want to have. If you include any columns, any data you want to have. All right, the next, any questions? Is it clear?
It's only for data filtering. That's it, right?
Data
mean-
type filtering, not
Ah,
data
data.
filtering. All right, the next one is CSV. So how do we reread CSV files? We have few files here, which are CSV. You can see that we have data folder. Under this, we have file.csv. Let me get into this file.csv. Open this. You can see it's comma separated. CSV stands for comma separated value. Comma separated value. So though, like if we have a data format in this way, where the data is separated by comma, right? This is going to be one row. This is going to be second row, and so on and so forth. But it's been separated by comma. We call this comma separate value. You frequently hear this in AI and other things. That is the I know I can say that's the easiest format that you can you can usually get from a client. So we'll try to read these CSV files. Um, there is a specific dedicated method for it, read underscore CSV, wherein you need to provide the file name, the file underscore CSV, right? The thing is that this file underscore CSV is not in the current directory. So it is not the file, it's not here. I mean to say, wherever I have this Jupyter notebook,
Mention the path. We should.
so I need to mention the path. So instead of mentioning the whole path, we can provide relative path. So it is actually wherever the file I have, in the same directory, this dot means it's going to point out this directory, dot, it's going to search for data, and inside it we have file.csv. So p dot read underscore csv, we have a file here. But one problem here, if you observe it carefully, right? Do you see that we read the data, but what we got is that, of course, there's data frame, but one problem here you might have observed. What do you think it is?
Position of data is not.
Of course, we got in the form of rows itself, but this is the first row is going to assume that it is columns.
Okay.
So it's going to assume that it is a columns. It's going to have column names. But
Yeah,
what
data itself became a column there. Yeah.
yeah, in fact, in that case, what we can do is you can mention header equal none. In that case, what happens is like it's going to it is going to enforce that don't assume that there is a header. Then everything will fall under rows. Okay. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
The next one is file one.csv. I'll read it out. You can see now in this case we don't require header equal none. By default, it has come up with. You can see the first row is set of column names. And if you mention header equal to none, what happens is the column names will become rows, which is not really what we intended, right? Or else you can mention 0 in case the first row will be considered as columns. In some case, what happens is they add some rubbish to the data set, and the column names, the actual data starts from somewhere, like somewhere. Then you can specifically mention where do you want to start from. But in this case, we don't really require it because in first row itself we have column names. And there's been whatever
So
the
even if that column was in the 9th place, I mean the index. So we could have just a header of 9. We could have given the index. It will become the header, right?
header. Yes.
Okay.
Now it's an exact example. You can see that we have column names right in the middle of the data. So we can say We can mention it like S3. Let's see. It's actually problem here is you can see we got the data, but it has trimmed out. So it is going to start from there. You're not going to get what we really want. So, but at least, okay, let's use the data first. What we can do is better approach for this is header equal to none because the rows being considered as column names. Now we can push it down, right? So let's create the data frame. We'll do it step by step. And this particular thing is actually columns, isn't it? So we can fetch it using what? You can see the 4. It's actually going, all right. So I lock is the 4th row. If I'm not wrong. Right, sorry, 5th row, but 4th in the index perspective is 4. So I need only that particular. So I need all the columns, but that particular I mean 4. Oh, I got columns, right? So can we assign it to columns directly? Let's see. If we assign it to columns, this whole thing will become column names. Right now we have default column names. That is starts from 0 till like if it has 5 columns, it's 5 minus 1. Let's see what happens. Now you can see that you got column names appropriately, but we still have this row. We can delete it. How do we delete that? Usually we have seen how to drop columns, the column name and access equal to 1, but by default it is 0. What does that mean? Access equal to 0 means it's going to drop the rows. So I can utilize that for going to drop that particular row, or else you can not to improve readability. Anyway, it's access equal to 0, but you can specifically mention access equal to 0. Now this makes sense. I will assign back to data frame, right? There is another problem here. Any questions up to here? I hope this is clear.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Sir,
there is
that
another. Yeah.
4 is coming in the column index.
Okay. Okay. So we have seen another problem here, right? So it is coming as 4 here. The reason for that is if you look at this columns, df columns, there is something called name, isn't it? Because that index being reflected as name. So we can say we can set it to blank. So look at it now, you can see that it's much better. But still, I think this part is clear, right? Still, there is another issue. You observe that?
Index 4 is missing in the.
Right. So index, whatever it used to have, it is coming with the same way. So we need to reset it. But there is another problem now, isn't it? So the
To
index
drop that index.
we used to have
Extra.
is
Extra
adding,
index.
it's called adding as a column. So we can drop it, isn't it? So the index access equal to 1. We need to be very careful while dropping. So we need to specifically mention access equal to 1. Default behavior is rows. Now this is much better. In fact, that's exactly what we need. So not all the data that we get is going to be clean. You need to make sure that it has to be, clean. Okay. And okay, we have seen a good number of examples on this, on how to read a CSV. A few more. We have something called file3.csv. What do you think the problem is? We already discussed about this. What do you think that we can add to
Lot of space come in.
Column names came as a
Column.
first row? Okay, so what do you think that we can do?
We can drop
Name.
that row first, and again we need to change the headers.
Header?
0. We have to
Yeah,
do.
that's true. 0. Maybe it's not 0, right? 0 means first row. Maybe 1.
One.
Column 1, yeah.
1. That is one way to do it. There's another way to do this one. If you observe this data closely, there's something called comment been added. Actually, comment. What is which file? It's file 3. So it's actually comment. Comment been added. We can ignore this. We can say that okay, in every format of data, it has its own interpretations, right? So some say the comment starts with hash, some say there's double slash or whatever. So we need to specifically we have a parameter called comment wherein we need to provide what do you mean by comment. So what do you think that it will start with? So it starts with hash here. You can see that now even without providing header equal to 1, we got the data. So basically this is going to get ignored. What is going to get ignored? The comment is going to get ignored. So how does it know that it's a comment? We could clearly mention that the comment starts with hash. So if you read the data, it is still, it is hash, right? It starts with hash. Let's take if it is double slash, something like this, then we need to change accordingly, right? Is clear?
So for the header, do we have to give the index value or the normal 1, 2, 3?
Header, it has the column names, right? It has
Yeah.
column names. So what is the need of
No,
providing?
no, not in this one, the normal one. In the header, while the giving the index, it should be started from 0 only, right? I mean, like that.
Index always starts from 0, but based on the data that we need to use the appropriate parameters. Read it as CSV.
Okay.
File 4.csv. Let's see what we have in this. You see that, like, what do you think that we can do? So whatever that we discuss, that is good enough to solve this problem. What do you think we can do here?
Remove the comment and one is needed. This one, header is needed.
Comment, we need to mention it. Okay. Header?
Head.
Header is not there. We have to.
None.
Yeah, none.
Absolutely. So otherwise, what happens is going to consider this row as the column names, right? Now this solves the problem. This much, of course, we don't have any columns in the data sets itself. We can have our own customized columns, but we're trying to read the data as it is. So the next one is what is okay. So we have file 4.csv, right? I think we read file 4.csv. What is the other one? File 5.csv. All right. So I'm going to copy the same thing. File 5.csv. Change this to file. And let me read this. Now, what do you think that we can do?
You remove the comment, make the column as head.
So comment equal to is actually starts with hash. Okay, then header.
Header 0. Sorry, 1. Get 1.
Or you think that it's required to mention header equal to 1 or 0, whatever? Because after it get ignored, comment get ignored. Anyway, the first row is going to consider as column names, right?
Yeah, it will become automatic.
So we get it. There's another problem here. Basically, the first column is actually index. So it comes with with its own index. I want to make this as index. What do you think that we can do? So I think we discussed at this point already. df, what is the method that we have to use to set a particular column as index instead of default one? Set index. Now you can see that what are the column we have mentioned, it's going to set as column index.
But again, for the index also call one, that column name came.
With that we can see that it is column name, right? So actually it's part of name, isn't it? So I can say name equal to index, or I can leave it blank, something like this. Which one you prefer? Leaving it blank better, right?
Mm. But column 2, of course, it's readability wise okay, but first column name is call 2 like that it came.
No, that is fine. So the column names usually be dictated by the client itself. So we can't change the column. So it's because I given it in sequential order. It doesn't mean that the column name is going to be in sequential order, right? You
But if
can
you want to change the column name, we have to write another one column and add it again to the data flow.
yeah, we can customize it. I think we already discussed this, right? At the
Yeah,
start.
yeah.
Yeah. And let's see, what is this? Do we have anything called yeah, the file 6? Actually, it's not file 5. We are at file 5, but file 6 is not really CSV. It's file 6 is txt file. So read underscore. I'll try to read this one too with the read underscore CSV itself. Let's see whether it works or not. CSV is not. Oh, sorry. It's PD dot. You can see that we got the data, but let's see what we really have. It has read, in fact, but you see it's in the first row. We have rows, and it's not comma. It's actually space. In fact, it's tab. In some case, it is even more bigger, right? So that's the reason I think we got slash t here. First and foremost, it's not column, so header equal to none. But even in this case, it got separated by slash t. But it is going to assume the separator. By default, it's going to assume separator as comma. But here we have slash t, isn't it? So we need to mention slash t. Slash t means tab. Now you can see that we got the data appropriately. But in some case, what happens is, like you may have regular spaces. Here we have prefix tab space, but in some case, it's going to be like this. Only one space, maybe two spaces. Two spaces, right? In that case, obviously, it's going to be very difficult, right? In that case, what we can do is instead of slash t, slash t means tab space. Tab space means four spaces. But if it's not a prefix kind of, so then use slash s plus. Slash s means a regular expression where it indicates space. Plus means it can be one space or two space or three, whatever. Now it has read the data properly, so no issue. Whereas slash t, in this case, a slash t or slash s plus, both will work. Right? Fine. So any questions on this?
No, sir.
LS
No, sir.
data, we have another for FWF text. So we will use the same method, CSV, and see whether this FWF.txt will work or not. Again, first row is definitely not a header. Header equal to none. But one problem here is that fixed width. Or it can be variation. So we can, shall we try separator? Actually, space separator, not comma separator. If it is comma separator by default, we not to mention this comma. But in this case, it's better to go slash s plus. Is that it has read well. Let's look at the actual file itself. You can see there's variation, isn't it? There's a lot of space, here. But this is quite dangerous method too. What if we have data where in value a space? Okay, then it will not work. So we need to be very, very careful with that. This one. So it's going to assume that there is no space in between in between the values. I mean to say, in the same cell block, if you're expecting a kind of sentence or phrase, then this will not work. All right. So in fact, we have another method, dedicated method for FWF. Let's it has read it, but first one is it has read that, but the only problem here is we have two nans because it's going to assume the space as value. But in this case, I think this is much better approach, right? Compared to FWF.
FWF is a syntax or like
It's a method to read fixed width files. If it is fixed width, if there is a variation, initially it was fixed width. I kept adding the spaces to make it variations. If it is fixed width file, it doesn't matter one space or two space or three space or whatever. This will work
as it
as long
is.
as it's constant. But as long as it's constant. But if it is, if it has variations like this, best approach is /s plus. Even if it is one space or two space, three space fixed width file, /s plus will work. But one glitch with /s plus is if there is a space in the phrase itself. Okay. Clear? All right. So where are we now? I think we read all this file 6 also. This one too. I need to focus on this part. Okay, we'll discuss it tomorrow. Continue tomorrow.
So with the fixed width file, we cannot use that /s plus. I mean for the separator.
I don't think it has a parameter called separator because fixed width file is fixed width. There is no such parameter for this. Whereas read underscore CSV has that separator. It is a lot more robust.
Okay.
That's it for today. We'll continue tomorrow, even though it's 40-minute session, 35-minute session. In fact. So we'll continue tomorrow. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.